Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here, I'd like to welcome you. And if you are a frequent visitor, I would encourage both of you guys now to click on that watermark down there in the bottom right-hand corner to subscribe, along with that notification if you would like to know when additional content is released here on the channel. Over the weekend, Activision and Infinity Ward allowed us to participate in an open beta on Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I have to say it was a rather enjoyable experience, and it seemed to do really well across parts of my social media, so it is perhaps a game that I will include here on the channel. Now, if you guys want to check out my first impressions, you can do that right up here in the right-hand corner. And I'm looking forward to perhaps picking up the game probably as a birthday gift next month. There was a flurry of news buzz this week to include President Trump addressing the UN as well as Greta Thunberg. But what got the social media all lit up and trending was that Nancy Pelosi came out on Tuesday to announce that they were launching a formal inquiry into President Trump. Now, I want to be able to read this out to you from the AP. That would be the Associated Press for all my foreign friends who enjoy the videos. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi launched a formal impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump on Tuesday, yielding to mounting pressure. That's media term for the progressive left, from fellow Democrats, and plunging a deeply divided nation. Another buzzword by the media that they use quite often. This way people pick this up. So say if you're out and about, say maybe you're at Starbucks or wherever else, and you hear a bit of a political discussion, you'll hear people use the terms divided and divisive, and the media wants to put that out there. So plunging a deeply divided nation into an election year clash between, another nice adjective there, between Congress and the commander-in-chief. The probe focuses partly on whether Trump abused his presidential powers and sought help from a foreign government to undermine Democratic foe Joe Biden and help his own re-election. Pelosi said such action would make a betrayal of his oath of office and declared no one is above the law. That includes the Clintons as well, in case anyone was wondering. Now, there was a bit of excitement, of course, and it was kind of fun to engage individuals on both Facebook, Twitter, and across social media, particularly when it comes to the fact that many of them did not understand how the impeachment process works. But more specifically, they don't understand that the Democrats don't want to explain how impeachment works, because if people knew how impeachment worked, they would realize that this whole, yes, they can launch an investigation, they can do the inquiries, they can do whatever they would like to do, and this is all carrot on a stick. It's all it is. It's a distraction. I would like to take a moment, for those of you who may have heard me talk about how the impeachment process works, and I think it's very important that people understand this, because I saw a lot of Canadians, a lot of British and Europeans, very excited about the prospect of their nemesis in the United States, President Trump, Mr. MAGA, not being able to, or to be removed from office. And to be honest, the reason that they're doing that to begin with is they really don't have a candidate in their party that is really getting everybody motivated. Really, a lot of it's so much media hype when it comes to any of the particular candidates. There really isn't any grassroots, genuine, substantive support here. So let me give you just kind of the official just outline here. So if lawmakers believe a president is guilty of what the U.S. Constitution calls treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, the process begins in the House of Representatives. Now, it doesn't have to start in the House of Representatives. It can happen in the judiciary or other departments, kind of like with Richard Nixon. Any member can introduce an impeachment resolution, which, like any other bill, is sent to a committee. The process can also be started without a resolution, as with the current impeachment inquiry. If the evidence is strong enough, the committee crafts articles of impeachment. That's what they did for Bill Clinton. the political equivalent of criminal charges. So it would be like issuing criminal charges against the president, and sends them to the full House. By full House, they mean the House of Representatives and the Senate. The articles then goes to, okay, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead here. Yeah, the House can pass the articles, which has to be done by what's called a simple majority. The House can pass the articles by a simple majority vote, impeaching the president. So at that point, he would be technically, quote unquote, impeached by mere terms. Excuse me, guys. By just really the terminology is really what they want. It's really, sometimes you could say, you can make the argument that sometimes Trump detractors are more about the charges than at the actual evidence and facts, because we see a lot with Brett Kavanaugh and with even Lewandowski. It wasn't really about the actual evidence and facts when it comes to Brett Kavanaugh or even Lewandowski. It was about the charges, you know, the drama, the dog and pony show. And let's see here. So the articles then goes to the Senate. The Senate, of course, is dominated by Republicans, whether a trial takes place. So the Senate can pretty much just shoot it down right there. So the trial will take place with representatives from the House. That would be the House of Representatives. That would be all of your Trump detractor Democrats there. They would be acting as the prosecutor, all right? And the president and his attorneys presenting his defense. Now, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the trial in the Senate. That would be John Roberts, who would then take over at that point. The 100-member Senate then votes on the charges. So then they would have to come up with, you know, what are the actual charges. In other words, it has to be substantive, it has to be tangible, has to be obviously something egregious that the president has done, with a 2/3 majority necessary to convict and remove the president. That would happen. So they have to get the 2/3 vote from the majority Republican Senate. If the president is convicted, the vice president can then take over the White House, and guess what he can do? He can pardon the president, and it would be all over. So I hope that gives you guys a kind of an idea of how we've talked about the way the mainstream media and even the Democrats try to present their information, really to kind of keep, I don't know, their base, maybe, the Trump detractors, just hopeful and keeping them motivated and uplifting their spirits and giving them expectations and directions that their nemesis, their foe, the one-dimensional villain of President Trump is finally going to go down. And as you guys know, because you've been following this channel for quite some time, it is all really a big flash show for the media and Trump detractors. So what is driving the Democrats to pursue this inquiry? Now, there has been some rather interesting discussion here in the last few days, and that is that President Trump could be engaged in another 4D chess move based upon what has been called a leaker, but really a third-party hearsay person that was suggesting that President Trump made some sort of arrangement with the Ukrainians over the phone in regards to a prosecutor who was looking into the Hunter Biden, that would be Joe Biden's son, when he was discussing energy deals and businesses with the Ukrainians. So there was this prosecutor, and he's looking into all the legal matters and paperwork and so forth. And this particular prosecutor could have been looking for some type of nefarious activity that Hunter was involved in. Now, this was taking place back in 2015, and as a result of this prosecutor looking into it, it irritated Joe Biden. And I wanted to read one of the articles here that says, Joe Biden said in the past that the U.S., the past being 2015, the U.S. would withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees from Ukraine if the prosecutor was not fired. So he had a beef with this prosecutor that was looking into his son's activities on this energy deal. But it remains unclear if this was directly tied to Hunter Biden's case, as other countries reportedly wanted the prosecutor out as well. So, of course, the media is going to try to cover for Joe Biden and so forth. But the thing is, it's been turning against Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, there was an article, I think, by the Washington Examiner that was explaining how the New York Times had gone after Joe Biden, which really irritated the progressives and the left, which was amazing because they actually called the New York Times fake news. Their ally, the old Iron Horse, the old gray lady of the New York Times, suddenly has been turned against their fellow Democrats. Wow, can you imagine that? But nonetheless, I found it kind of interesting whether or not President Trump was engaged in 4D chess, because it is looking more negative towards Biden and his son. Now, people aren't really all that interested in what Hunter did or the facts behind Hunter. It really is to kind of throw shade at Joe Biden. So it is going to be kind of interesting to see how that turns out. But I think we're going to have yet another incident where the Russia gate and the Mueller investigation, Lewinkowski and Brett Kavanaugh, these are all going to just fall apart and nothing's going to happen, because as we just discussed in the previous segment, how impeachment work as well. And I think that we're just seeing a carrot on a stick being dangled to all the Trump detractors to keep them hopeful, to keep them motivated, to raise their expectations, but more importantly, perhaps to affect the Democrats in their way to affect the 2020 election. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for the Friday vlog. I want to thank you guys so very much, and take this moment right now and click on that like button down there in the right-hand corner, as I'm sure you would have liked to have done it sooner. It is something that we as YouTubers do on a regular basis. Click that like button to support fellow creators. But nonetheless, guys, also click on that ubiquitous channel icon appearing right there on the screen to subscribe, along with that notification, so you guys will know when the next Friday vlog is available, as well as additional content that's here on the channel.